You're listening to the Sanditon Chronicles, where we talk all things Sanditon and Sanditon adjacent. Come along with us as we dissect all of your favorite characters, scenes, and dialogue. We have so much to tell you. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sanditon Chronicles. I'm Maureen.
I'm Janice.
And we are back with our second episode. We're very glad to be back again. We're talking Allison Heywood this time. And we're going to dig into who she is, who she has been, and who we think she will be. So Allison, I actually really liked Allison. I had some struggles with her character, obviously, but overall I liked her, and I really like Rosie Graham, and I think that went a long way to having me like Allison, is because I like Rosie Graham.
She did, I think, a very good job playing her and walking into a character that did exist, however little we saw of her. And yes, and I love her when she first gets to Sanditon, and now she's the wild-eyed girl looking at, all the seaside and the artist who comes out of the water, and and how she talks about feeling so provincial, and her eyes are so big, and she does a great job of playing a very innocent,
very naive very naive and eager young girl.
Right.
Because she's very clearly eager to, and like we talked about a little bit in the last episode, she feels the burden of needing to get married, but I think for her, that's something she can tell herself, that it's okay that I want to get married so bad because our parents can't afford us. She desperately wants to be married apart from the burden on her family. She just wants that romance. She wants that first love. And I think part of it is because she is old enough to be out. They never really say how old she is, right?
No, they don't. One would assume she's a year or two younger.
Yeah.
At least, maybe 2 or 3 years younger than.
But she's definitely old enough to be Charlotte's best friend because she's the closest to her age.
Right.
And she's definitely old enough to be out in society. I have to imagine if they have that many kids that they're only each about a year apart.
Yeah, or 2 maybe. Yeah. But not much more.
So when she comes, she's old enough to be out, and even so, I don't think she's experienced that first love. I think she's heard a lot about it. I think she sees that her parents really love each other. I don't know if they always did. We don't get much backstory in that. But I think it's, at least from season 1, if that's anything to go off of, their parents really have a connection. Their parents really do love each other. There was a couple scenes in season 1, or not a couple scenes, we only had the one, but where the parents would look at each other and you could tell there was a connection there. And I think watching that, and also seeing that her sister got to experience new love, especially if I wonder if Charlotte ever sent that last letter she was writing to Allison. The one that Sydney interrupted. I guess she did. My guess is she didn't, because it was saying all my hopes rest on him. But I think leading up to that, she had to give Allison at least some indication that she was in love. And I think Allison really wanted to feel that for herself.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're right. And Allison was just ready for an adventure. She saw Charlotte go off and have an adventure and was gone for the season. And so she wanted that same adventure. And I think she wanted to be with her sister and keep her company and, maybe help her through her sadness. I mean, she was on her own adventure, but I think she is a loving person and a loving sister, and she wanted to be with her, and she was so excited to meet Georgiana. That obviously was something she was looking forward to. I think they both were looking forward to it. They became chums right away, which was great. So and
I think that Allison kind of thought the way to get Charlotte out of this sadness of losing that, because she was aware, obviously, that she lost a love. She knew who Sydney was, so she was aware of the situation. I think that there was a part of Allison that thought, if I could only get her to be with someone else, if I could only get her to fall in love with someone else, if I could only get her to love someone else, marry someone else, then she'd be happy again. And I think because she's so naive, and that's what she wanted for herself so badly, I don't think she was selfish in an evil way, in a wrong way. I think that she was naive enough to think, this is what society wants of us, expects of us. So this is what every girl, every woman must want.
Right. And, as we find out, she wants to find a husband, so she's not continuing to be a burden to her family.
But I really do think that's a secondary excuse for her.
Oh, of course. Yes. I mean, she is. So if let's see, how old was Charlotte in the last episode?
No, do they ever really
20,
say?
I think we figured out she had to be 22 because she was
Okay.
3 years older than Georgiana. Georgiana was not of age yet. Oh, 2 or 3 years older.
Don't they
Anyway,
say Georgiana's 19 in season 1?
they do at the beginning of season 1. So here we are. She's now 20 when this story takes place,
Mhm.
and looking forward to turning 21. But we don't know exactly how soon that's going to be. Probably another 9 months or so would be my guess.
Do we hear that Charlotte's older or younger than Georgiana?
No, Charlotte's older.
Okay.
I'm sure she was at least 22.
So I would guess that Allison is about the age of Georgiana.
Very close in age to Georgiana, close 19 or 20. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that, I mean, right around 16 is when you come out to society.
Right.
So they had the possibility of living in Willingdon. And just like Charlotte, I mean, Charlotte was interested in a different way because she's the oldest girl. So she got to help her father with all the household things. And we saw that in season 1 where she's talking about the rooftops and how you draw the eye, that sort of thing. I think that was a relationship special to her and her father. Allison, I don't think, had that. Allison was probably more related to her mother in taking care of the house, doing the wifely things, doing the motherly things, where Charlotte had a different experience.
Yes, I think that's quite true.
Take care of all the kids sooner, help her father, because I mean, that's a big load to carry with all those kids in the house. So I think Allison, their different experiences at home shaped who they were in the world and how they view things, because they both came to Sanditon wide-eyed. They both came to Sanditon for the first time, doe-eyed, ready to experience things, where Charlotte was more, I just want to know more about the world. I want to see what else there is to see.
Right.
But Allison's version of see what else there is to see was about romance, was about finding her purpose rather than seeing all there is to see in the world. Hers is about finding her place, finding her home, finding her husband.
It's interesting to think that when they at least arranged to go to Sanditon, and certainly I think when they first got there, they didn't know the military was going to be there. I mean, they didn't know that was going to be somebody for them to, date and, as it were, be courted by.
Happy circumstance for Allison.
Yeah, it just was right up her alley. At least she thought it was.
Yeah.
And she was ready to fall in love. I mean, and she says something about, well, that's, what you do in the romance novels, right?
Yeah.
So she's a little bit, her character reminds me a little bit of the main character in, the Jane Austen story, where young girl goes to stay with this family. Northwoods Abbey.
Oh, yeah. Northanger Abbey?
Northanger Abbey. Yeah, Northanger Abbey. Yeah. Allison reminds me more of that character, certainly, than Charlotte. Charlotte wasn't, she wasn't, even when she arrived at Sanditon, she wasn't as naive, in terms of, life is like this book, that wasn't how, because she was obviously well read for more than romance stories.
Yeah, she had substance.
Yeah,
she has substance.
Right. And she was able to become a governess, because she was educated, really educated. And I'm sure her father spent more time educating her as much as anything to help him educate the rest of the kids.
Yeah. And Charlotte, in this story, Charlotte was the one, as we find out in season 2, she was the one who helped teach all of her younger sisters, which included Allison as a younger sister. So I'm sure that she didn't have as much to do with Allison's education since they're closer in age, but Charlotte had to have some part in doing that. I mean, in that time, the younger siblings looked up to the older siblings, no matter how close. You see that with all of Jane Austen's stories, right? And I think that there is a tendency to compare Allison to Lydia Bennet. But the difference there is that, one, Allison, yes, she wanted to be married really bad. She very fiercely wanted to be married. She wanted that romance. She wanted that. But Allison was not selfish. She was not conniving. She just thought that every woman would want what she wants because that's what women do. And so she was well read. she liked Cowper, right? So she
But yeah,
had substance. She knew what she
more
wanted.
more poetic, more,
Yeah.
instead of the more practical
Mhm.
education that I think Charlotte had.
Yeah, but
She read particular things.
but I think the fact that she was reading something outside of just flowery romance novels
Well, that's true. Yeah.
was something of substance, because she was reading. It's not like that was rampant for women to know the names of different authors, different poets, different, things like that, because they were expected to learn certain things and be done. So the fact that she, not only did she know it, but she liked it, she enjoyed it. It was something that, I mean, Fraser obviously is the one. No, I said it right. Fraser. I said it right. I
You
was
said
about
it
to
right.
correct myself. But he even had that substance of liking, and I think part of the appeal of Cowper for her was he was worldly, because there is some part of Allison, I think, that likes learning about the world at large,
Oh
because
yeah.
she had that small part of Willingdon, and it's too small for her. And she even says to Fraser, when the final scene, when she's laughing, and said, "I swore I'd never marry a farmer."
Right.
She likes that. She likes that worldly knowledge that comes with that. So I don't think she should be compared to Lydia Bennett, because she's not inherently selfish. And I think she has more substance than Lydia Bennett. And while she does want to be married, she knows what she wants, and she knows who she is. Because I love that scene with her and Carter when she finds out he's lying to her. She's fierce about her anger. Like, how dare you do this to me? I deserve better. And she leaves.
Right. And one of the things and also, Lydia Bennett was a lot more sort of protected, in a protected environment, don't you think? As opposed to, well, maybe not.
I wouldn't say that, no.
No, I take it all back.
Lydia Bennett was just frivolous for frivolous sake.
She was, and that is not Allison.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that I think both Charlotte and Allison are unique characters.
I agree.
They aren't identical to any of the other Jane Austen characters. They have hints of some of them, but they're not identical by any stretch.
But that's the writer's way, and I think that was something that I heard when the season 2 first came out as well. They just put like every Jane Austen story in here. I don't think they did that. But I think that because this is a Jane Austen inspired story now, because Jane Austen stopped writing after episode 1, that's all they took from there. By inputting different aspects of her stories, that's their way to keep Jane Austen in this franchise. It's not about stealing her work. It's not about copying it. It's about keeping Jane Austen a part of this world.
Right. And to, have the same kind of heart, the same kind of soul, as it were.
Exactly.
In the writing.
And so I think Allison, I think she does have some pieces of Lydia Bennett, in that she is much more naive, and in that she wants to be married so badly, but then she's got like what's the lead girl's name in Mansfield Park? I cannot remember her name off the top of my head.
Oh yes, what is her name? I know who you mean.
Oh, don't come at me for this. I'm claiming chemo brain. I professed for 2 years how much I love Jane Austen and all of her works, and I cannot remember the lead character's name from Mansfield Park. But she's got pieces of her too, where she's a bit more serious. She's a bit more reserved. She's not about to go and do something that's against the rules just because she wants to. So Allison has bits and pieces from different characters, but she's all her own in her own regard at the same time.
Right. Are you talking about Fanny Price?
Yes. No.
Mary. I'm looking at the characters. They're talking Fanny Price.
Fanny is who I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think it is Fanny you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't think.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure it's Fanny. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So she's all her own. So while we can compare all these characters to Jane Austen characters, she's still her own person.
Yes.
It's just inspired by Jane.
Right. Yeah. There's things they do and situations they're in that are very similar to other characters, but they're not.
Yes.
The characters are unique.
Yeah. And it is Fanny that I'm talking about, by the way.
I thought so.
I had to make sure, but it is Fanny. And I think that with Allison too, it's her desire for marriage is, like we talked about, is not solely a selfish thing. It's if Charlotte would just get married, she wouldn't be sad. If I could just find a husband, then my father wouldn't have to be on me. And it's the same thing with like Georgiana, when she encourages Georgiana to go for Lockhart. If you could marry, then everything would be settled. I think that because she's not a rule breaker, she's a good girl who has been under the secluded company of Willingdon in her small family farm, who's never really been out to experience things. What she knows is that her mother is very happy being married. What she knows is that it's a woman's role to get married. What she knows is that women's jobs are to find a husband, give them children, organize your house, run your house. And so for her, that's a woman's purpose. If we could all just find our purpose, then we'd all be perfectly happy. Isn't this what everyone wants?
Right. Yeah. And frankly, they've had a really good example. I mean, it's obvious that the parents have a very good relationship. And so, you know, unlike many other characters that we see that end up in bad relationships. And so it is interesting. And I agree with you. I mean, she's definitely a romantic. That's for sure. She just sets her sights on the wrong person.
And I think part of that is because she didn't get to see her parents. I mean, we don't know what state, we don't know if her parents' marriage was arranged. We don't know if it was a love match. We don't know. But what we know is that where they are now is happy. She may not have seen them grow together, but she wants what they have immediately. Sometimes that takes time. So when she finds someone who's willing to dote on her the way she watches the good example of her parents, I think that she leapt on it because, well, I could have that right away. I could have everything right away. And obviously the reason that she fell for him partly was not just because he doted on her, but because he lied and said, yes, I have all the same interests you do.
Because he was good looking.
Yes, I think that was definitely the first thing of, because he saved her, right? And so she loved him because he saved her. But the first face she saw was a pretty face. So those two things together were cemented for her that, well, he can't be so beautiful and do something so heroic and not be worth my time. But then as he lied to her about, yes, we have the same interests. Yes, I like the same poet you do. Yes, I like all these things that you do. It was miraculous, because how could I meet someone who our wedding or our marriage would be the best thing ever, because we do nothing but just talk about the things we both enjoy. That's what our marriage would be. And it took her finding Fraser to realize that she doesn't want herself. She wants to be challenged.
And she wants a person of substance, you know, and he is certainly more of a person of substance.
Yes.
Carter was not.
Empty. Carter is very shallow. Good guy.
Yeah, he's very immature.
He's young. He's a good guy. And like when he was lying to her, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like you. I'm not sure about you anymore. But then we see him in the end, how he encourages Fraser to go after him. That's when you see, okay, he's not actually a bad guy. He's just incredibly immature, and he doesn't know how to be anything but shallow and want love.
And you know, it's all flattery. It's not substance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
with him,
the reason she turned off of Fraser so quick is because he's so opposite to her in personality. But as it comes to substance, and that's what you need in a relationship, is the substance should be the same, but personality, it's better to have opposite, because then you challenge, and then you're one's more bold, one's more quiet. And Fraser's quiet. Allison is loud. So they'll work better together, but they substantially, they like the same things. They enjoy the same things. They enjoy the same kind of people. They both love Charlotte. They both like the Parkers. You know, they in substance, they're the same. And I think that we got to really see Allison grow with that, because even after Carter first lied, it's when Fraser comes to apologize to her. You can tell that she's starting to understand that about herself. That she doesn't just need the words to be nice. She doesn't need the exact same personality. And that's what Carter was. He was gregarious, and he's an extrovert, and that's what Allison is.
At least on the surface, yes.
Yeah. And I think it was really good to watch her grow in that way.
It was. And it's interesting to look at how open and respectful and excited she was about forming a friendship with Georgiana. Yeah. Which speaks volumes to me about her and about the attitude that they were raised with, which was
Yeah.
very positive and very, not biased, as it were. They accept people for who they really are, not what their appearances say about them.
Yeah.
And you see that with Charlotte all along. And when in the first season, when I think it was even the first episode, when Mary says to Charlotte, are you willing to dance with shopkeepers? And she's like, I'll dance with
anyone.
anybody who will partner with me, And so that, they've been raised to be very respectful
Absolutely.
girls, which is great to see.
And I think too that the fact that Charlotte spoke well of Georgiana, and that Charlotte was friends with Georgiana, and that Charlotte valued Georgiana, I think Allison knew enough to trust her sister's word.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think that knowing the relationship Charlotte had with Georgiana made Allison completely confident that they were going to be friends, because she knows Charlotte. And that's the other reason I don't think she should be compared fully to Lydia Bennett, because Allison, I forgot her, I had a brain fart on her name for a minute. Allison sees value in people. And I think she's intuitive to see their actual value, not just the perceived value, except for when it comes to the romance aspect. That's because, again, she's in Willingdon. She probably never experienced romance in any level. So the first hint of it is, of course, she's not going to fully understand it, because it's not something she's been a part of before.
Right. Can you imagine with that many kids? Probably most of the people, well, in those days, they probably were schooled at home. And so the only interaction she had with the other kids in the neighborhood were
the
playing, or the country dances, or at church,
which is in fact where we meet her, is at a country dance where she's wild hair, dancing around, having fun, and she's trying to experience that romance, but she couldn't find it there. And it's interesting. It's an interesting tell that when she's after Carter, she's packing up to leave and she's upset about it, that she says, my father needs us home, or she's been gone too long, something to that effect. And that's what Charlotte had said at the end of the first season too, I believe, something along those lines. And so Allison, I think I don't think she was being completely honest with herself. I think that it shows that she also feels this need to be strong. So we see this side of her character that has strength to it, where it's, no, I'm not going to fall apart. And that's another thing I like about her, is that she refuses to fall apart. Yes, she's going to be sad, but she jumps right into the next thing because she doesn't want to fall apart. And I think that her saying, well, my father needs us, is her saying, no, I'm going to walk away. I think part of it was she no longer was intrigued or wanted to be a part of this bigger, wider world, because she saw that how easy it was for someone to lie to her. And part of me wonders if the reason she wanted to leave is because she felt she wasn't ready for it, because she even says something about her own intuition, that she felt that, he was good enough and he wasn't. So I wonder, part of her wanted to go back home because she didn't trust her intuition at that point.
I think also she'd just been hurt and embarrassed. Embarrassed by the fact that she was taken in, and that she didn't listen to her sister and Georgiana when they tried to warn her.
Yeah. I almost feel like she was more angry than anything about that.
Well, I think she was angry, but it takes her a little while to come around. Remember, at first she doesn't want to, go to the ball, and then she finally decides, I'm not the one who should be bearing their head, or I should be going out. He's the one at fault. But it took her a little while to get there. I think there was embarrassment to be in.
Oh, yeah. And that's another time when we see her strength, when she goes up to the person who hurt her and doesn't give him any quarter. Like, no, I'm letting you know right here, right now, you are not going to keep hold of me. You're not going to have it. I'm not going to give it to you, and I'm going to be fine.
And warning him about how he treats other women too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she realized that the same thing that we as viewers realize, is that Carter's not a bad guy in Essentials.
He's a lightweight.
Yeah. And I think that she realized that too. And I think that part of her bringing that to his attention was, one, to protect the other women that he's going to come into contact with in the next town he goes to, but also, hey, you need to be aware that you're doing this, and you have no idea what you're doing to these girls, but this is what you're doing to these girls.
Right.
So I think she's a lot stronger of a character than I think that we initially thought she was when we first see her
Right.
come to town to be
And I don't know
friends.
why. I mean, I think she's really nothing like Lydia Bennett other than wanting the adventure.
I think that the comparison that I've seen to Lydia Bennett is the wanting to be with a redcoat, the
Well,
loving
right.
that the military is there, the insane desire to just be married, and to anyone who gives her attention is like, oh, I love him, he loves me, kind of aspect. I think that's the comparison that people are drawing between her and Lydia that I've seen. I just think it's unfair.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that there's a lot more to Allison than there is to Lydia Bennett.
Yeah, I've heard
Even
her.
when
Go ahead.
even when Lydia, it becomes obvious the situation Lydia Bennett's gotten herself into, she still buries her head in the sand.
Yeah, she doesn't care about anybody. Lydia Bennett doesn't care about anybody but herself.
Right.
And it's not even caring about herself necessarily. It's her thought process goes to, I want, I have. And that's
right.
That's it. There's no thinking of consequences. There's no thinking how it affects anybody else. It's just, and even with George Wickham, like, oh, I'm tired of him now. I'm gonna go find something else. And I think even comparing her to like Marianne, again, she has little aspects of Marianne from Sense and Sensibility, but she's not as frivolous as her, because Marianne is so emotional. Marianne is she's so insistent that this is the person, that Willoughby is the person for her.
Right.
That she's so devastated. So there's hints of Marianne in her too. But I think even Allison, again, we talked about she's her own person, her own right. She's stronger than Marianne was.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree completely. It's interesting what we learn, and what she learns about herself is that she's more like Charlotte than you realize to begin with. You know, she is a person with a backbone who will stand up for themselves and not be just dragged into anything.
Yeah. And she bounces back quickly. When she she recognized in Carter, okay, you're lying to me. You weren't who you said you were. You're not who I perceived you to be. But when she sees something that's real, she was quick to go towards that.
Right.
So she knew that in essentials, her intuition was good. I think that just when it first happened, I don't think she trusted herself very well. And she kind of said that, but still when the real thing came along, I think with Carter, what happened was that she was responding to the romance of it all. But when the real thing came along, she was responding to it because she connected with it, because it was real and her intuition was good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love the sense of humor between them. I'm sure we'll get into that down the road, but you know, that the lines were wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that when we see Allison harangue Charlotte over the governess position, I think it was kind of hard to see her be so unyielding about it and to be so hard about it. But her, again, I think that comes from a place of fear for her sister. So a lot of her reactions that for us are like, oh, that's unfair. I think it came from a place of, I just want to be better for you. I want you to be better. I want to make things better for you. And you're going to see that I'm right, because it's like with the governess thing, that's not what society expects of women. That's not what our job is. So you will not be happy here.
I do think you're right, but I think there was a little bit of, she was worried about how it would reflect on her.
Really? You think so? I don't think that was much of a factor for her. I think she said that, but I don't think it was much of, because after that, she was fine. She carried on with her, and when she found out it was Colburn, she encouraged her, sort of thing. You know, I think that she was, I don't think it lasted long.
Say that again. She found out about Colburn. What did you say?
No, when I didn't mean Colburn, but when she found out that Charlotte was in love with somebody else, she encouraged her to go that way. She talked to her about, you know, what Charlotte was doing, how she was a governess. And I think that I don't think it lasted long if she did feel that way, because she came to almost like an impasse with Charlotte, that, okay, this is what you're doing.
Right. But then it was like a little bit of her argument was intended to manipulate Charlotte into changing paths, because it would be better for Allison. I do think there was a little bit of that in there. You know, she was, anyway, that's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, absolutely. I think that we've talked about this before with season 1, but the sign of good writing is that we can connect on different levels to all these characters and get different perceptions from all these characters, and we can each read them separately. I think that's kind of why I like talking with you about the character spotlights, because I'm used to doing the character spotlights all on my own. And then it's only my perception. But there's other on our YouTube channel for our spotlights, there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't agree with you, I think this. So it's nice to talk to someone else and see how they responded to it or how they received them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it is interesting because other people will think of things you didn't see
Yeah.
or didn't pick up on, or,
Mhm.
just didn't hear, or perceive. But
Mhm.
anyway, yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy our conversations.
Yeah. And I think Allison became a character for me that I want to see more of, even though they kind of closed her story. She's a character I want to continue seeing.
But for instance, if the reason they returned to Sanditon is for Georgiana's birthday party, her 21st birthday party, I'm sure that Fraser and Allison will come back for that.
At least
You know.
Allison, if not both of them.
I bet they both will.
Because he's a farmer now. So
Well, I know, but
he can take time off. No, that's what I'm saying. He can take time off.
Right.
He's not in the military. He's not beholden to a
Right. Nobody else is telling him where to go and what to do.
He's
so
his own
much,
man now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that even though he doesn't have his own land, her father will be thrilled to have somebody who will come and work.
Well,
and contribute.
He's got land in Ireland, didn't he say?
Oh, well, his family's in Ireland, and they have.
I think that's where he's going, because it sounds like he's going to farm that land. So I think they're going to Ireland.
Oh, you think so? They'll move to Ireland?
That was
interesting to see where the story goes.
I think that's why they put that in there, because he's going back to farm his family's land. I mean, he's a son, so that would be it. We don't see how many other sons or how many brothers he has or anything, but he had usually second sons going in the military or going to the church, so he might be a second son. But it sounded to me like his plan was to go back to Ireland, because she asked him, "What are you do?" And he said, my family has land in Ireland.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see where they take the story.
But it was really, really nice to see Allison, because you could see that before when she first moved to town, or came to town, she's that naive, I want romance, I want this, this is what my plan is. And she was kind of up and down with,
right,
I'm happy, I'm not happy, I'm nervous, I'm not nervous. It was nice to see her with an actual real love be settled. At their wedding, she was so calm. She was just happy. She was joyful. It was fun to see her doing that. It was fun to see both of them really have that sort of peace. And again, that comes down to the actors and actresses. It's not a scripted thing that I got this from. It's just from their behaviors, from their mannerisms, from the look on their face. So it was nice to see them both be settled.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we've seen a big arc for her. I mean, she definitely went through being naive, seeing more of the world, having a fall from innocence, as it were, but not as tragic as a lot of falls from innocence. And then she finds her love, and all's right with the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At least at this point.
I think so. For me, what I would like to see more of Allison is I would like to see her partly help get Colburn and Charlotte back together again, because I think that's what she started off doing, was trying to get Charlotte to be rid of her grief by finding a love. So I think that she understood that on a level that Charlotte didn't, because she's right. I think Colburn is the one who's going to help her get over the grief she has for Sydney. So I would like to see Allison be a part of that.
And I think she probably will be. And Allison doesn't want her to marry Ralph.
No.
So that
I
alone
hope she's instrumental on breaking up that engagement. That's what I hope. Because
Yeah,
the pride that would give Allison if she was responsible for breaking up a marriage that her sister never wanted.
Yes. And the gratitude she'd feel from her sister.
Yeah. So I certainly hope we have not seen the last of Rosie Graham. Or Fraser,
I don't think
for that
so.
matter.
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah.
I think the only ones we've really seen the last of are the rest of the soldiers. What'd you say?
My girl.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because they've said that,
Yeah,
Charlotte,
that was a bummer for me.
Charlotte Spencer as Esther, and probably Lily. Maybe we've seen the last of her.
I think so.
And
I'm gonna miss both of them.
So there's a really good interview between about the Tom, who plays the actor of Linux, and the actor who plays Colburn, whose
Ben
name
Lloyd
is
Hughes.
yeah. So they're a real good interview about the two of them and that last scene that they did together, and in a way the backstory that they either knew or made up. Anyway, there's a really good article. I think interview. I think that was on PBS Masterpiece.
I need to get caught up on their podcast.
I'm not caught up either. I need to as well.
I gotta say, I'm trying not to hold Tom Weston Jones personally responsible for the breakup of Colbert and Charlotte. I need to remember he's the actor, not the character. I'm real mad at him right now.
Yeah. Don't be mad at him. Be mad at Linux. It's the character that did it.
They're very real to me, Janice.
What?
They're very real to me.
I know, but the Colburn, that his character was as much responsible as Linux was for the way he reacted.
Yes, but I love Colburn.
That's the difference. Right now I'm not too crazy about it.
And so, it's weird because like even Lockhart, I can't bring myself to hate Lockhart.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, I don't like what he did in Georgiana, but I can't bring myself to hate him because his character was so fun and entertaining. It's like Edward, pre what he did to Esther this season, I couldn't bring myself to hate him, even though I should. But now it's Edward's all done for me. Don't even like you a little bit, dude.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
But I like Jack Fox so much that I can separate those two.
Yeah, I need to see him in something else, you know. But
so Allison.
Tom, yeah, Allison. Let's finish up Allison.
So is there anything else you want to see from Allison coming up? Or theories?
Well, it'd be interesting to see if she gets pregnant right away. It depends on how long after that the story takes up. And I don't know, I haven't heard when the story takes up after the end of season 1.
It can't be terribly long.
Season 2. Season 2.
It can't be terribly long because they're going to need to break up Ralph and Charlotte's engagement fairly quickly because it's not like engagements lasted 2 years or whatever.
Well, you get the impression that Georgiana's birthday is coming soon. Yeah.
And I think that's the scene we keep seeing of Ralph and Charlotte walking into the ballroom.
Right. That teaser they're doing. Yeah.
And I'd really like to see Allison and Fraser in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Okay. Well, next week we are going to discuss.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, one more thing I want to say. We'll talk about it more later in their relationship, but that dance that they Allison and Fraser did together, the one that Sammy Murray wrote for them, it's wonderful.
The end scene one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was the one where I saw them, where I felt that they were just so at peace.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got for Allison's character. Join us next week as we talk about Charlotte and Allison together. And then the week after that, we're covering a big one. I'm not going to tell you yet. You're just going to have to wait until I announce it after next week's episode. So watch for that, and we'll see you in a week. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Are you craving more TSC content? Head on over to our social media accounts. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook group, the Sanditon Chronicles Sanditon Family Fan Club. Also, check out our website, thesanditonchronicles.com. Of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear and what your thoughts are. Email us at the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in every week for new episodes. Are you craving more TSC content? Head on over to our social media accounts. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook group, the Sanditon Chronicles Sanditon Family Fan Club. Also, check out our website, thesanditonchronicles.com. Of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear and what your thoughts are. Email us at the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in every week for new episodes.